So in my previous video I said that Shen is a champion who's good for first picking and he's good against every champion, which is true. But there are some champions he's better against than others. And in this video you will learn which champions you should try to pick Shen into and which champions you should try and avoid. The first champions you want to look at picking Shen into are the ranged top laners, due to how his shield works with his passive, and also the fact that he got his ultimate so he can focus on being on the entire map. He's very good against those. So he generally beats Lucian, Kennen, Quinn, and the likes of those. And the reason, as I said earlier, is because you just disappear from the lane. You don't even have to lane against them after level 6. You go up there, you have your shield every single time they attack you, you don't have to focus on farming too much, just chill, enjoy life, and then later on, ultimate around the map, TP around, move as much as you can, and just ignore top because it's not very important. The map is much more important, and that's how you beat the ranged top laners. Now, another set of category that Shen tends to beat is the high mobility bruiser champions. Now, these champions are the likes of Irelia, Akali, Yasuo, Sylas, and so on. And the reason he tends to beat those champions is because they don't have very high stats. So Shen is a high stat check champion who is incredibly strong in the laning phase, and because they have a high mobility but he can lock them down with his taunt, he tends to beat them extremely hard due to his overpowered laning phase. Shen is actually one of the strongest laners in the entire game, despite a lot of people not knowing this, and the ones he counters the hardest are champions like Irelia, because she jumps around all the time, and then you just walk up to her and you just hit her and she can't fight back against you. Also, those champions tend to overextend a lot. For example, Irelia, Yasuo and so on will push the lane often, and they're going to be close to the tower. And the taunt is a fantastic way to set up a kill on them, because you have high damage, you have a high sustain, you have a shield to always stay healthy, you have decent health regen, and then you have your taunt for the new jungler decides to come top and gank. And your Q, empowered Q, does a ton of damage, so when you actually go in for the fight and trying to kill somebody, you're going to do a tremendous amount of damage, much higher than most champions in the laning phase. Now, there's also high mobility champions like Fiora, who's actually very hard to play against this Shen. Now, despite popular belief, Shen beats Fiora really hard, but the thing is that you have to play the matchup in a very difficult way. So you're never allowed to give her a single vital unless he's full health, because he heals a lot from it, and you don't have enough damage to beat that. Also, you should generally tend to go for health and not focus on rushing Tiamat, and you could opt in for going a Bramble Vest to stop her healing. Fiora's a lane you're gonna beat. You can also teleport around. She can't follow, because if she follows and she doesn't get something out of it, she's out of the game completely. So again, just like ranged matchups, your goal is to affect the map, but similarly in the laning phase you need to beat her, the empowered Qs, and make sure she doesn't hit your vitals. Also, your W stops her vitals from actually hitting, so you can ruin her completely. Now, we're gonna get into the less fun champions to play against, which are the stat check champions. Those are the only ones that actually beat Shen in my opinion. So those champions will be high pushing champions or high kill champions with insane stats that can just fight you on. Now, those champions are the likes of Sett, Mordekaiser, Darius, and Singed. Now, Singed is in this because Singed can literally just push past your tower, proxy farm, and roam. And he puts so much pressure on Shen, who's having a hard time pushing out lanes, and he can control the map, which actually ruins one of Shen's biggest advantages of having map advantage, because you can teleport around, right? That's being removed by Singed just proxy farming, and you can't do anything anymore. Proxy farming basically means he's farming between your two towers. Now against Sett is going to constantly push you in with W. He can push all the time. He beats you 1v1. There's not really much you can do against him, and even if you do good trades against him, his health regen is much higher than yours, so he's going to sustain himself better than you will. Then you have Mordekaiser, who's just a bully. You can actually beat Mordekaiser, but it requires a lot of finesse. So against Mordekaiser, you want to focus on killing him from level 2 to level 5. You have an advantage and you want to try and push level 1. You don't want to push too hard because you want to apply as much pressure as possible. So you want to slow push and have 1 or 2 hits advantage on him. And then every time he walks up, you just hit him with empowered Qs and you do the free hits and then out. Free hits and then out. And you should always be able to beat a Mordekaiser if you do that until level 6. But after 6, he's going to destroy you. Even if you got a kill, you need to be careful about him. And honestly, you just want to get away from the lane after 6. You don't want to be facing him for too long, if you can avoid facing him. And now we get to the last champion that beats him, Darius. So Darius is a champion who's extremely annoying to play against. The problem with Darius is that he can kill you so easy. And if you make a single mistake, you're going to end up dying. However, if he makes a mistake, he's not going to end up dying. So the problem with that matchup is how difficult it is to play, not that it's unplayable. You can actually beat Darius, especially with ganks. The matchup isn't that terrible, but the problem is just how difficult it is for you to play compared to the worth of the matchup. So if I were you and you don't play a ton of Shen, I would completely try and avoid Darius matchups, and I wouldn't pick Shen into him, just because it requires a tremendous amount of skill, and every single mistake will end up in you dying, which is just not worth it. And it's also not a fun matchup because you have to give up a lot of CS, you don't have much impact, and rely heavily on your team to win the game. Now, this was my matchup guide for Shen. I hope you guys liked it. If you guys liked it, click a like, watch some other guides, and tell me in the comments on YouTube what you guys want to see next. Peace, boys.